the Mishnah in end of Elam Mitzios says, Avedas Aviv, Avedas Rabba. What happens if you only have an opportunity to return the lost item of your Rebbe or lost item of your father? Who should you return? You only can do one. So surprisingly, the Mishnah says, Shal Rabbo Kodemes, you return to your Rebbe's first. Your Rebbe's Aveda, you return before your father's Aveda. That doesn't seem right. How come? So the Mishnah says, well, your father brought you into Olam Hazeh, but your Rebbe brings you into Olam Haba with all the Chachma that he teaches you. I know there is exceptions. Your father is your Rebbe also. That would be different. But your Rebbe brings you into Olam Haba. I cannot adequately describe how much simcha your Rebbeim get from nachas, from you learning. And especially in 7th grade, the most joy they get is when you become bar mitzvah. I know there's so much celebration, and maybe you don't feel, you see it in your family, but you do not see the joy on Rebbeim's faces when someone's becoming bar mitzvah. And not just you, but we, the Rebbeim, are like distressed that we can't join in your celebrations. And that's why I am so excited that we're able to express ourselves today. But we asked Rabbi Stein to introduce Rabbi Krohn, because Rabbi Stein is representing the Rebbeim today to express the pure joy that we have when you become bar mitzvah. And we also miss attending your bar mitzvahs. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Rabbi Stein to introduce the special speaker we have today to charge us with the proper joy for the bar mitzvahs that we just missed, and the bar mitzvahs taking place right now, and the mitzvahs that are soon to take place. Rabbi Shmuel Stein, the floor is yours.
Oh, wow. Wow, thank you so much, Rabbi Paragon. Welcome everybody, our special bar mitzvah boys and their families, and the entire 7th grade. What a chutz I have to introduce Rabbi Paysach Krohn. I first wanted to thank Rabbi Paragon, Rabbi Wiener, and Mrs. Goldgrant for really arranging this entire assembly. They care for each one of the bar mitzvah boys. It's amazing, overflowing. And I want to thank them for arranging this beautiful event. Secondly, I want to thank the boys in 7th grade. Such an amazing, awesome group of guys. I know my class, personally, is just unbelievable, tremendous group of boys. But I got to know over there all of the 7th graders, and really a tremendous group. And we just felt like something had to be done for such a special group of boys going through this situation in the 7th grade and their bar mitzvah year. For the boys who are going through the bar mitzvah, and even the whole grade loses out on their bar mitzvah year a little bit, not having full bar mitzvahs. So I really wanted to, this is in showing you how much we care about you and how much we see how amazing you are. We just wanted to do this for you. So I was speaking to Rabbi Paragon a couple of weeks ago, and he suggested maybe we could get Rabbi Paysach Krohn to speak to our boys. Rabbi Paysach Krohn, we know he spoke to the whole world, all the bar mitzvah boys, and maybe he would come to speak to our grade to show us some honor to our bar mitzvah boys. So Rabbi Paragon didn't realize that I'm really a big fan of Rabbi Paysach Krohn. When he mentioned Rabbi Paysach Krohn, I was like, that's a great idea. Many of you don't know, but Rabbi Paysach Krohn, he pioneered the English books in America, starting with his Maggid series with all the great books that he has. And even Rabbi Krohn might not remember this. I always like to say stories in my class before we start, inspiring stories. So Rabbi Krohn, I don't know if you remember this. A couple of months ago, you got a phone call from a Rebbe in Miami Beach asking you to send some CDs that you have so I could use them in my class. And Rabbi Krohn graciously sent me a whole package of CDs that I use for my class. Many of you, my boys, remember we speak about a lot of Krohn or Paysach Krohn's brother. And every day in my class, we start off with a story from Rabbi Krohn, either from his CDs or from his Maggid books. And it really adds like a lot of Yiras Shamayim to our class. I love Rabbi Paysach Krohn's stories because they're practical, and you just feel Rabbi Krohn's heart when you read the stories. They're so down to earth, so you just realize that he's somebody who practices exactly what he's saying in the book. That's what he keeps. And he's someone's a special person, someone who's a real role model. And it's really a source. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you, Rabbi Krohn, when I called you for graciously offering to speak to our grade. It's really an amazing group of guys. And it's a real source for us to have you. So if we could if I can introduce you, please, to invite you to speak to us.
Thank you very, very much. It's really an honor and a privilege for me to be able to speak to all of you. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge and thank Rabbi Ephraim Palgon for the idea of inviting me. Rabbi Zev Wiener, of course, as we mentioned, is a relative of mine. It's wonderful to speak in his presence. And of course, Rabbi Shmuel Stein, who made all the calls back and forth. And I appreciate his efforts. And of course, Rabbi Yaakov Fried and Rabbi Shimon Eisman. You know, the Gemara says that there were certain Tanoim and Amoraim, when they started a shir, they started with something light. So all of you know, my name is Paysach. Now, I have many, many cousins named Paysach because we're all named after the same grandfather. As Rabbi Wiener can tell you, he knows some of my cousins named Paysach. But in the family, I'm known as Paysach Rishain. So look at that. All of you are listening to Paysach Rishain on Paysach Sheni. Okay? So today when you eat matzah, don't eat it too late in the afternoon because you can't eat bread after a certain amount of time, the Rebbe's will tell you. But certainly it's a minute to eat some matzah today. But I must tell you that when Rabbi Palgon was speaking, something came to my mind that I hadn't thought about in a long time. He was talking to all the boys and he was saying the joy that parents have when they make a bar mitzvah. So I want to tell you something. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I'll tell you this. I remember my oldest boy, Avram Zelik, when he had his bar mitzvah. And we decided not to make it in the big catering hall. We rented a tent and we made it in the backyard. We have a nice sized backyard. And I remember thinking to myself the day of that bar mitzvah, how in the world could anybody be doing anything else except coming to my son's bar mitzvah? Isn't this the greatest thing that ever happened? And I remember feeling such joy and feeling like the whole world's got to celebrate this because this is the greatest thing that ever happened. And that's exactly what Rabbi Palgon was talking about. When a parent, a father or a mother, and I'll tell you the truth, even grandparents, when they live to see the bar mitzvah of children and grandchildren, it is a fabulous joy. So all of you boys that are having a bar mitzvah, you should know you're giving tremendous nachas to your parents and grandparents, and I hope that you'll always be able to continue doing that. And so I just want to mention all the boys that missed out on a regular conventional type of bar mitzvah. I want to wish them mazel tov, and I have a very special message for them. So of course, this is the Shabbos of Akiva Silverstein, as was mentioned. And Rabbi Waxman, the grandparents, if they're on, I just want to wish them mazel tov as well. But I know that in April, we had Moshe Ben Lolo, Menachem Blum, Eli Stoll, and Isaac Zonana. So I wish them mazel tov. And of course, in May, Akiva Silverstein, Noach Kurlansky, and Zevi Siegel. In June, Mit Hashem, I hope that by that time that we'll be able to be in a shul, but still, we do have the opportunity to wish you mazel tov in advance. Sadia Queenan, Benny Dalfin, Mordechai Dreyfus, Shalom Klein, Mendy Korik, and Matisyo Miner. But I will tell you, they gave me a list here of the boys in July. I sure hope in July you guys are going to be able to have a regular bar mitzvah. But either way, Avi Greensparg, Yoni Lamet, Mordechai Masselton, Joseph Pinchasov, and Akiva Zaret. And so I want to tell first the Bar Mitzvah boys something that I believe is very, very true and very special. Do you know, of course you know Gematria, and there is great significance to Gematria. The word Echad, Aleph, Ches, Daled, is Gematria 13. Okay? We know Hashem is Hashem Echad. We say it thousands of times, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The word Ahava, which means love, is also the Gematria 13. And I think that this year, when all these boys that we just mentioned, and all the boys around the world that are having a non-conventional bar mitzvah, there's a special love that Hashem Echad, who is 13, has Ava for these boys that are becoming 13. You know why? Because usually a bar mitzvah has a lot of fanfare, big kiddush, a lot of gifts, a lot of simcha, dancing and singing. So of course, every kid is going to be makabel the mitzvahs. Why not? Everybody's making them feel tremendous. But this year, it's so different. As a matter of fact, I must tell you, a half hour ago, I got a call. I'm crying since I heard this. There's a kid in Chicago. I'm going to call him after I speak to all of you. He's supposed to have a bar mitzvah this Shabbos. This past week, his father got COVID. And so here, people were going to come by his house. The kid can't even go out to the front porch to say mazel tov to all those people that were going to pass by his house. Now he's quarantined and he can't even have his father who's got COVID. So it's a very difficult situation. But I believe that when you guys, especially the guys who don't have the conventional bar mitzvah, you accept the mitzvah of tefillin, and you accept the mitzvah of limud HaTorah, and you accept the idea of perhaps not even speaking when you're wearing your tefillin, and you become a chelik of Klal Yisrael in these difficult times, Hashem loves you. Hashem's proud of you because you're going the extra mile. And that is what's so special. So again, I just want to wish mazel tov and give chizuk to these guys. Just remember, this situation is going to end in a few weeks, Mitzvah Hashem. Already in New York, it's going downhill, so to speak. There's less people getting sick and less people dying. And I'm sure it's going to be like that all over the United States and all over the world. And we're going to look back at this. But just remember, your bar mitzvah was at a time when you guys made a commitment that no other bar mitzvah boys did. You did it when it was the tough times. And, you know, in the tough times, there's an expression. When times are tough, the tough get going. And, you know, you guys are strong and you should continue learning, continue doing limud HaTorah and mitzvahs and everything that you're doing. And Hashem should bench each and every single one of you. You know, there's a very interesting question that the Bnei Yissaschar asks. I don't know if you ever thought about this. Why is Sphira 49 days? Where did that number come from? Now, why not 39? I mean, there's 39 Av Malachas. Why not 29? Why not 59? Where does the number 49 come from? And he says something fascinating. After this talk, take a look at Perik Beis in Pirkei Avos, Mishnah Tes. You'll see something amazing. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was sitting with all those Talmidim. Imagine Rabbi Wiener, Rabbi Stein, and Rabbi Palgan sitting with all you guys and asking this question. Think about the answer that you would give even before I give you the answer. And the Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, Chevra, tell me, what's the best midah? What is that choice midah that every yid should have? So the Talmidim were thinking about it. And then somebody said, Rabbi, I think everybody should be a chaver toiv, a good friend. Yochanan ben Zakkai said, not bad. And then somebody else said, Rebbe, I think everybody should be a good neighbor. And then another one said, I think everybody should have a good eye. Don't be jealous of anybody else. And finally, Rabbi Eliezer ben Aruch said, Rebbe, you know what I think? I think every person should be a leiv toiv, have a good heart. Oh, when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai heard that, he said, you're the man. That's it. You are so right. Because if somebody has a leiv toiv, a good heart, then he's going to be a good neighbor. He'll be a good friend. He'll have a good eye. He won't be jealous. And you know what the Bnei Yissaschar says? Take a look at this. Leiv is B'gematria 32. Toiv is B'gematria 17. Even in Torah Chaim, Torah Semes, you know this enough math to know that 32 and 17 is 49. He says that's what 49. That's why it's 49 days. Because we have to teach Derech Eretz Kodma L'Torah. We have to teach everybody as we're going towards Shavuos to have that leiv toiv, And if you have that Leif Toiv, that's when you reach the peak of Shavuos. And that's why he said, we don't make Shechiyana when we start counting Sfira. We make Shechiyana when we reach Shavuos. After we graduated, so to speak, when we became that Leif Toiv. So how do we become a Leif Toiv? What do we do? So I'm going to give you some practical suggestions in a moment, but I want to tell you a story that happened to me this week. I'm telling you, you're from the first guys in America to hear it. The reason that I say in America, because this week I already spoke to South Africans, to people in England, and to people in Mexico. So they know the story. But here, you guys are the first ones in America to hear it. Listen to this. It's unbelievable. Many of you know that I am a male. I've done many, many brisin in the Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva, many, Baruch Hashem. Rav Henach Alav Shalom was a tzaddik many times. And I got to tell you something amazing. You know, I always say this when we go to his keva, which is not far here in Queens. It's in Mount Judah. Every single time, without fail, right before the bris, when Rav Henach Leibowitz, the Rosh Hashiva Chavetz Chaim, was tzaddik, right before we started the bris, he called over the father. He said, I want to give you a bracha. I give you a bracha that your son should be a marbitz Torah. Imagine that. That's the bracha that the Heilige Rosh Hashiva used to give everybody. That's why Chavetz Chaim has got branches all over. In the Nalapan, in Las Vegas, in Cleveland, and in Arizona, all over the world. I should say all over the United States. Cherry Hill, obviously Miami. Because that was the whole purpose of the existence of the Rosh Hashiva, Zechron Livracha. That everybody should be a Marbitz Torah if they can. But anyway, so this past week, I had a bris, but a couple days before the bris, somebody called me. He said to me that he met me a couple years ago. I didn't remember who he is. He said, Rabbi Krohn, my wife and I are very sad. I said, why? What's the problem? He said, we have no children. We're married 4 years and we have no children. And we heard recently that it's a big schus that if somebody doesn't have children, they should pay for a bris. And if they pay for a bris, Hashem sees, look, they gave money for a mitzvah that they didn't really have to do because it's not their child. In that schus, they're going to have their own child. He said, Rabbi, do you have a bris this week? Maybe I could pay for it. And then it will be a schus, and then we can have our own child. Oh, I was very touched by that. And I said, I got to ask the father. I just can't tell you to do that without asking the permission of the father. So the father's a very erlich yid. He lives in Kew Garden Hills. And I called him up. I said, this guy called. He's so broken. He has no children. He wants to pay for the bris. So he's a Talmud Chacham. He says, but doesn't it say in the Gemara in Kedushin that mitzvah la'av limol es haben? It's a mitzvah for the father to do the bris. So it's really my mitzvah. I don't want to give away the mitzvah. I said, I understand that. I'll tell you what we could do. Why don't you pay a small amount for the bris? Let's say $25. And let him pay the rest. So you'll have a chelik in the mitzvah that you did paid for the bris of your son. And he'll have, the major part of it. And hopefully that'll be a schus for him to have a child. He said, okay, let me call my Rebbe. So his Rebbe is Rabbi Reuben in Kew Garden Hills. And Rabbi Reuben told him, yeah, that's a plan. Fine. I came to the house and nobody was there. Just the father and the mother. The father was the sandik. The zaidi was sitting outside on the porch. And the older children were sitting on the other side of the house. And we did the bris. Now listen to this. After the bris, I go over to the father. I said, all you got to do is pay me $25 because, that guy's going to pay for the bris. Now listen to what this guy said. It makes me cry every time I think about it. What the father said. He said, Rabbi Krohn, it's true. I'm going to pay you only $25. That's true. But you know what I decided? The rest of the money that I was going to give you, I'm going to give it today to tzedakah. So it should be a schus that guy should have a child. Could you imagine? He could have saved a couple $100, right? Because the other guy was paying for the bris. No, that's what Avos Yisrael is. That's what a Leif Toiv is all about. He's ready to give a couple $100 for tzedakah so that guy who he doesn't even know and never met in his life, that he should be able to have a baby. That is beautiful. That's what a Leif Toiv is all about. And I'm telling you, I'll tell you something amazing. Everything is coordinated by Hashem, right? This week we're in Parshas Emor. So I want to tell you something that Rav Pam, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, used to say. You know, Rav Pam always used to quote this week's Parsha. And he said, I'll tell you exactly, you could look it up. In Perik Lamed Beis, in Perik Chav Beis, Perik Chav Beis, Pasuk Lamed Beis. It says, V'nikdashti b'soich b'nei Yisrael. You should make my name holy among Yidden. Now, Rav Pam used to say, you know, many people, you ask them, how do you make a Kiddush Hashem? So somebody would say, well, you know, you do things so that Goyim should say Jews are nice people. He said, that is true, but that's not the main Kiddush Hashem. The main Kiddush Hashem is not by Goyim. Of course, you got to do things that Goyim should think Jews are good people. But the main thing is, V'nigdashti b'soich b'nei Yisrael. You got to do things that other people in Klal Yisrael are going to be inspired by them. And I can tell you, when this father told me that, I was so moved. I got into the car. I called the other father. Mitzvah Hashem, he should be a father. I called him up. I said, listen, you want to hear what this guy said? And the guy was crying. He couldn't believe it. And Mitzvah Hashem, I told them both, Mitzvah Hashem, next year, when this guy has a child, we're all going to get together. I'm going to introduce this father and hopefully the new father and the mother. But that's what Kiddush Shem Shemayim is. That's what a Leiv Tov is. And I want to say to all the boys, and I want to say to the parents, but first to the boys, you know, you could have a Leiv Tov. You know what you could do? Call your grandparents every Erev Shabbos. That's a beautiful thing. As Rabbi Palgon was mentioning before, no child can really appreciate what it means to give nachas to a father or a grandfather until they are fathers and grandfathers. And I can tell you that my grandchildren call me every Friday when they call my wife and I. It's a tremendous nachas. You want to make a connection to the future generations, and you want to hear from them, and you want to find out what's going on in their lives. It's a beautiful thing. And to the parents, I want to say, all of you know people that are alone. It could be an old aunt. It could be a Rabbi that you had many, many years ago who might be retired and might be in a nursing home. It could be a chavrusa that you had many years ago. Whatever. There are many people that are sitting alone. Call them. Call them before Shabbos. Ask them how they're doing. You'll see. They'll be so touched. Take out your contact list after you finish this year and go through some of the names of the people that you haven't spoken to in a long time. You know, I did that. There's a Rosh Hashiva who was on the other side of America. I don't want to mention his name. He's semi-retired. I called him up last month of Shabbos. Of course, you know, there's a different time zone, different time change. And he was so thrilled. He couldn't believe that I called him. I said, I'm just going to find out how you're doing. You're okay? Of course, he's an older gentleman, but he was thrilled. And that's how we can be a Leiv Tov. You know, of course, when you're in the yeshiva and you have so many opportunities to interact with the Rabbeim and the Menalim, and of course the teachers, and of course the principals and the other chevra in the yeshiva. So of course, there are many wonderful things that you can do. But what should you do when you're quarantined? This is what you can do. You can make calls. And I'll tell you something very special. You may not know this. You know, Rav Pam was the most edel, the most fine person. And we see that he was talking about Kiddush Shem Shemayim. And you know something, you know who his Rebbe was? You wouldn't believe it. He always called him his Rebbe. That was Rab David Leibowitz. You see, before Rab David Leibowitz, who was Rav Hanoch's father, before he started Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim, he was a Rebbe in Yeshiva Torah Vodaas. And Rav Pam was his Talmud. And he considered himself a Talmud for the rest of his life. He always felt that he gained so much from Rab David. And of course, Rab David was not only a master in Torah, but a master in Midas. I always say to the girls, whenever I speak to them, you want to marry the nicest guys, go out with a Chavetz Chaim guy. They're the biggest Bali Midas. I'm telling you, I see all the Rebbe's smiling. It's true. It's true. They are the biggest Bali Midas. You take a look what Rab David is. Rab David Leibowitz, Rab Henoch, and today, of course, Rabbi Harris and Rabbi Grumblatt. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm just telling you. That's the midah of Chavetz Chaim. That's the midah of Torah Chaim and Torah Semes. The idea of having a Leiv Tov. But I just want to tell you one more thing. You know, I think, and one of the things that I would always tell a bar mitzvah boy is, you know, when you're now becoming bar mitzvah, now you have the chiyuv to learn Torah in a way that you never did before. And the pasuk in Shema tells us, "V'dibar tobam," you should talk in them, in divrei Torah. Isn't it interesting? Bam, beis, mem is bar mitzvah, right? I just thought of that a couple of days ago. Never thought about that before. So now all of a sudden, v'dibarta b'um, you have a new chiyuv on a new higher level. So what should you learn? So I just want to give all of you a suggestion. I think, and I'm saying this to all the Rebbes, I don't know what your program is as far as what you're doing and what you're learning with the kids. But one of the things that I think that all the parents can do and learn with their children or learn with their spouse is to learn Rus. Because after all, in a couple of weeks, there's going to be Shavuos, Mitzvah Hashem. Hopefully by then we'll be able to be in shuls. But if not, either way, we learn and we read Rus on Shavuos. And now is the time when we can really concentrate on it. Because I believe, you see, when we're in yeshiva, there's so many different things we're learning. We're concentrating on Gemara. But now you could learn Rus Be'iyun. You got a whole day. And you could learn it. You could learn it with certain of the Mefarshim. And I'll tell you the truth. I would never, ever ask anybody to do anything that I don't do myself. And you know what I did? I started a couple weeks ago. I have a grandson. His name is Yaakov Kramer. Yaakov Kramer originally was born in Baltimore. Now he's in Lakewood. And we learn Rus. We're learning it in such a way. I never learned Rus that way. With the Mefarshim, with the understanding. And I want to tell you, if you get the art scroll, Rus, that was one of the first books that they printed, one of the first Svarim after they wrote Megillas Esther. It's fabulous. It has the history. It has the lessons. And there are certain lessons that we can learn in Rus that are so important for all of us. I'll give you just two lessons that I think are so important. The first one is Noisei ba'oil chaverei. Feel the pain of your friend. And you know something? That's one of the midas, the memches dvarim, that we're supposed to learn as we grow towards Shavuos. In Pirkei Avos, in Perek Vav, it tells us there's 48 ways. One of them is Noisei ba'olam chaverei. Look at Avimelech. He ran away. Nebuch. He was a rich man. And a lot of people needed his money. And if Hashem gives you money, he gives it for a reason. That you're just the balabas over it. That's like a pikadai. And you have to give it out. That's why Hashem gave it to you. What did he do? He ran away. There was a hunger. Yidden were depending on him. And he figured, oh my gosh, I give out all this money. I'll be depleted. I'll have nothing. So what does he do? He runs away. He goes to Moav. And what happened? Nebuch. He lost his money. His two sons died. It was terrible because he gave up that responsibility of Noisei ba'ol chaverei. All you guys, as I say, it's just a few weeks until this whole thing is going to end. But we have to learn that lesson in Rus. Let's care for each other. That's one of the ways of being kind of Torah, Noisei ba'ol chaverei. And the second thing that I think is so important is commitment. Commitment to friends, commitment to family, commitment to Rabbeim, as Rabbi Palgan was speaking about before. Commitment to the cause of Yiddishkeit. And where do we see that? We see in one of the most beautiful and most popular psukim in all of Tanakh. Orpah has two daughters-in-law, Rus and Orpah. And Orpah leaves. But what does Rus say? Rus says, and I'm going to read it to you, Ki el asher telchi elech, wherever you go, I go. Uvasher tolini olin, wherever you sleep, I sleep. Amich ami. Your nation is my nation. V'lakai chalakai, your God is my God. Vasher tamusi tamus, wherever you die, I die. We're in it together. I'm not leaving you. Now, even though Naomi was destitute. She had no money. She had nothing. But her daughter-in-law, she had commitment. And that's what we need. We need commitment to the yeshiva. We need commitment to the ideals of Torah and Yerushalayim. We need the commitment of Avas Chesed. And so I want to give all of you a bracha. The Eibusher should help. You're in one of the greatest yeshivas in the world. Not only Toras Chaim and Toras RMS, because you're part of the Chavetz Chaim network of yeshivas, which is so great, which is building Torah all over the world, all over America, I should say, and certainly in Eretz Yisrael as well. But the idea is your Rebbes, your Menalim, they show commitment, and you can be so proud that you're part of that Chavetz Chaim family. Hashem should bench every single one of you, especially the Bar Mitzvah boys. Be strong, be committed. I wish the parents and the grandparents also simchas and nachas, and hopefully, Be'ez Hashem, next year, We won't have to do the Zoom. We'll just be able to be in Yerushalayim or HaKodesh, and we'll be able to sing and dance together and have a wonderful, wonderful Yontif. Have a great Paysach Sheni. Don't forget to eat some matzah today. And, of course, have a wonderful Lag Baimer, a wonderful Yontif, and just be proud that you're part of the greatest network, which is the Chofetz Chaim Yeshivas. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rabbi Krohn, for your heartfelt and inspiring words. It's so wonderful to spend time with you. I realize that your time is so precious. I just want to wish Mazel Tov again to Akiva Silverstein, his parents and grandparents on their bar mitzvah this Shabbos, as well as recognize that Rabbi Kalman Bauman, who is the principal of our elementary school, who also is a proud grandparent of Mordechai Dreyfus, who will be having his bar mitzvah soon. All of the parents and grandparents who joined us as well on this very, very special occasion. Rabbi Palgan, Rabbi Stein, this was absolutely so special, and I'm still experiencing the chills from all the words that Rabbi Krohn shared with us. We do, Baruch Hashem, have an opportunity to still have a beautiful day of learning right now, so I'm going to ask the boys in a moment to go with their Rabbi and back into their Zoom classrooms. And again, thank you, Rabbi Stein, for helping arrange this assembly today. Rabbi Fried, Rabbi Eisenman as well for being here with us. And everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos, Mazel Tov at the appropriate times. And we should just continue to see a lot of nachas from your children, family, and ultimately all of Klal Yisrael.